out on the room.
Welcome everybody to the first Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of the first Friday e-call is to increase the local community's knowledge of the experts, education, and economic resources available to help small businesses and the communities who love them. As always, the call is being recorded and you will get a link to it after the call. At the end of the call, we are going to ask you 3 questions and I'm going to teach to the test. Please be prepared to think about how you will answer these questions. Number 1, did you learn something today that you can use immediately? Yes or no? Number 2, how many people will you forward this information to? And number 3, what did you learn today that will be most helpful to you? Just an open-ended question. And we'll send that out to you afterwards, along with the link to the recording. And with that, that's all the introduction I'm going to give before I turn it over to Amber Dunn, who will tell us how Nexus supports entrepreneurs through access to capital, community, and customers.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'm glad to have some goals of questions that people will hopefully reflect on and respond to at the end of this. Helps keep me on track. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Presentation mode. There we are. And Nancy, if I can get a thumbs up so that you can see it. Okay, wonderful. So like Nancy said, my name is Amber Dunn, and I'm a program manager here at Nexus. And we're going to talk all about today how we help startups thrive throughout the state and in other areas as well. First, I want to take a really broad view and broad perspective on what a startup is. So in our minds, a lot of times people will say a startup equals a super scalable, pure tech-based company that's gonna bring lots of jobs into a city, and they've got shuffleboards and they've got ping pong and all the cool stuff, maybe beer and kombucha on tap. And while that's true, especially for the Midwest and our region, a startup in our mind at Nexus is an organization that today isn't what they're going to be or what they intend to be tomorrow and in the years to come. So just taking this whole presentation with that frame of mind. A couple of things that are perhaps surprising. Many of you may know some of these stats, but they continue to shock me. 80% of new businesses still active 1 year after launch. Average number of jobs created by startups, those companies who aren't today what they want to be tomorrow, a little over 5. And then let me move this down. And then the bummer of all of that is over half of those individuals are relying on bootstrapping their personal savings, their friends and family to start their businesses. And we want to be just a little piece of solving that challenge for early stage companies. Why does it matter? For every 1% increase in a state's entrepreneurship rate, poverty decreases by 2%. That's huge. Also, as just mentioned, the more startups equals more jobs equals better, more vibrant cultures throughout states, even urban distressed, rural, doesn't matter. It means more, and who doesn't want more? Also, it retains and attracts modern talent to grow economies. A really exciting example that if we had this call a few weeks ago, I wouldn't have been able to use is Nexus. We like to say that we're a startup for startups, and we actually just were able to bring a new team member on board. His name's Connor Adler, sight unseen, knowing no one in Kansas, to move to Wichita for this role that he has taken on from Chicago. If that's not an example of attracting modern talent, I don't know what is. And now it's our job to try to retain him in this awesome state. Couple of things in terms of who's winning. Buffalo, New York has got it going on. Tulsa and Oklahoma City, the whole state of Oklahoma, have really put a bunch of wind beneath the wings of so many entrepreneur support organizations and folks in the ecosystems to bolster their vibrant startup communities. And then Madison, Wisconsin also has some really big wins and success as of the last few years. We in Kansas, we have the opportunity to be the same and to do the same. And I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like for Nexus here in a moment. So taking the lens down just a little bit further in terms of who we are at Nexus, like I said, we like to think of ourselves as a startup for startups, and we put the entrepreneur at the center of everything that we do. We're a pretty small and scrappy team, and we have 3 key components of how we help entrepreneurs. That's through access to community, access to capital, and access to customers. We help entrepreneurs as they grow companies of significance, plain and simple. We're constantly looking at not only other cities and states and what they're doing and what best practices they have, but we're constantly trying to put ourselves out there and meet other individuals in the state who are doing very similar good work at different stages for entrepreneurs or for different industries and types of entrepreneurs, so that we have a really informed Rolodex, if you will, to be able to help entrepreneurs that come into our doors and never have to turn them away. We always tell them, you need to know so-and-so, and here's so-and-so that does this great work, so that everyone gets met where they are in the stage that they're in and exactly with the resources that are perfect for them in that moment in time. So we try to have this 1 + 1 = 5 mentality. Our small and scrappy team is consisted of 5 individuals, and Mary Beth Jarvis, President and CEO. She's been here for the last few years working under Josh Oding, who was our previous CEO, and really together they brought Nexus into what it is now, which is developing scalable programs that reach across the state and then also into other states to bring individuals into our state to show them that they have prospective customers here and can do business here as well. I joined the team a couple of years ago. Connor Adler, who I mentioned earlier, just joined the team a month ago from Chicago. Like I said, sight unseen into Kansas, knowing no one. So it's been a lot of fun in introducing him to our little world. And then Cimbria Hansen joined about 6 months ago to take the programs that Mary Beth had created from the ground up, those pilot programs and pilot competitions, which we'll talk about in a bit. And she's taking them and running with them. And then we have Ellie Peters. She is the sole reason why this presentation is as pretty as it is. So all of the credit goes to Ellie. She's our communications coordinator, a graduate of K-State as of December, and we've really enjoyed having her on our team. So diving a little bit deeper into our core of community, capital, and customers. We'll start with community here. So under our community umbrella, there's a couple of things at play. The first is making sure that we are meeting the entrepreneurs where they are and at the stage they're at, which requires us to know as much as we can about all of the individuals throughout the state who are doing great work. So if you're on this call and I don't yet know you, please feel free to shoot me an email and we can set up a Zoom and learn more about one another, because I would love to be able to just know more and continue to enhance our Rolodex of who we know that's supporting entrepreneurs. But also, it's building community of founders and entrepreneurs who are doing life together. Every single program that we run at Nexus is about building, not only enhancing skill sets, but building community so that they can do founder life together and share their wins and their woes, and just enjoy being in community with one another. So there's mentorship, resources, education, and then in-depth programs as well. This is Brian Steele, founder of Forge Podcast out of Mays, Kansas, and he actually has graduated 2 of our programs in the last 12 months. Underneath our capital umbrella, if we tie back to that 65% of entrepreneurs are starting their businesses either with their own savings or calling friends and family, which is not bad, but it's challenging, and not everybody has that level of access. So we aim through our angel investment syndicate called AVP to just be another lever that entrepreneurs could possibly pull as it relates to getting capital infused into their businesses. So our angel investment syndicate began in late 2018. It's about 40, I think 47 members strong. We've got investor members and then observer members who are individuals that know that they want to be an investor someday, but they just want to learn the lingo. Quite frankly, 2 years into this, and I'm still learning a lot of the lingo as it relates to the capital side of our business. Those individuals come together one time per month to look at two entrepreneurs who have been curated by our capital program manager. And it's kind of like Shark Tank. Those entrepreneurs pitch to them for about 6 minutes, and the investors get to ask all sorts of questions to, get some information. And then we kick the entrepreneurs out of the room and get really real with ourselves as to whether or not we want to continue on conversations with trying to make investment dollars or infuse dollars into those companies. So it's a lot of fun. If anyone wants to be a part of sitting as a fly on the wall in those Shark Tank style angel investment meetings each month, I'm happy to invite you to those. The coolest thing in my mind about this whole capital piece is there's really two functions to it. One is if entrepreneurs can't come in, this happens frequently, saying, how do I get in front of the angel investors? How do I get in front of them? And they don't yet know about all the other levers that can be pulled with respect to getting capital in their business. We invite them into our educational programs that help them understand the breadth of options that are available, not just with Nexus, Grow Kansas and EGV and SBA and different banking options. So there's an educational component, but then there's the actual putting meat on the bone component of investing real dollars. So over the last 4 years, over $7 million have been invested into early stage growth minded ventures that are primarily in the Heartland region. Then the cool part about that is that those portfolio companies, the Kansas ones specifically, went on to raise over $200 million in additional capital. So those dollars in help them leverage more. New in 2023, we launched the Accessing Growth Capital series. It just put a little bit more structure, if you will, to the educational component of when an entrepreneur comes into our doors and wants to learn more about capital, accessing capital, they can go through this program. We are opening up applications to take a new cohort through in March. So mid-February, you can be on the lookout for information on when applications will open for that. Okay, so the part that I spend the most of my time in is the world of helping entrepreneurs access customers, which is the holy grail of any business that has ever existed. And through a series of listening tours over the last couple of years, we identified a couple of key gaps in the ecosystem where entrepreneurs are off of the ground and they've got their products and services in market. They've got a little bit of revenue coming in. They have customers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, but they know that they want to scale and they want to do that in a quick and efficient way. And so enter in our suite of next stage startup programs. We like to put play on words. So next stage is all about how to get them to that next stage, that rocket fuel that's going to boost them there. And underneath the next stage umbrella, we run 4 programs. The first 2 are eliminative and competitive by nature. They're pilot competitions, and they cast nets far and wide across not just Kansas, but the entire United States and then into other countries. And they scout a couple of hundred applicants each year to apply for the pilot competitions. We work with partners to dwindle those applications down to a top 10 or so, and then take those individuals and bring them into Kansas, where they get to spend an entire week sitting alongside partners like Blue Cross Blue Shield, KU School of Medicine, Hodgman County, Scott City Economic Development. And for this particular program, this is the Community Health and Vibrancy Pilot Competition. And it's all about what innovations exist out there in the world that are startups or early stage companies that we can bring into Kansas, match with these partners, and then deploy into rural settings and even in and around Wichita and urban settings too, to enhance the vitality, health, and wellness of communities throughout the state. This program runs once per year, and we're in the open window of seeing what additional partners might want to come on board to be a pilot partner as well. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that one for now. We do that same thing, basically copy and paste the model, but in the financial technology industry. And so it's running in its, I believe, third iteration. Last year, there were 111 competitors from 12 countries, which we dwindled that down to a top, I think it was 8. And 7 of those ended up winning pilot projects as well. So think about when you open up your phone and you get on your banking app and you have to do a dual authentication and it sends you a password. There are startups out there that are creating even more innovative solutions to those sorts of financial technology needs. The third of the programs that we run under the Next Stage umbrella is the Customer Traction Cohort. So a couple of years ago, Nexus and Wichita State band together and created the ICT EC, a coalition that answered a few questions of what gaps existed in the ecosystem. And ultimately, we identified that it was early stage businesses who need some help in go-to-market strategies. They've got a little bit of revenue coming in, but they just need more support to keep them going. We identified that there are also businesses who want to grow and scale by doing business with medium and large size enterprises. And they need a little bit of support as well. And so we ended up being awarded the Economic Development Administration Build to Scale grant in the state of Kansas, and are happy to announce that we're in our 3rd year of that grant, which has been able to allow us the ability to build from scratch the Customer Traction Cohort, and then the next program I'll talk about. The Customer Traction Cohort is for Kansas businesses only, and it helps them identify go-to-market strategies, hunker down on pricing strategies, assess challenges and assumptions that business owner is making in their business that maybe are keeping them from growing. And how we get through those challenges is we match the entrepreneur with a coach virtually. They get one-on-one weekly coaching sessions that take a really deep dive into those challenges. And then they create what we call flex experiments, because it takes a lot of muscle and a lot of strength and a lot of perseverance to experiment and test with your business. And so those flex experiments are tiny, fast, inexpensive experiments that are directly tied to a challenge that business is having. And then week after week, those individuals make progress. An example is last year, Network Kansas partnered alongside Nexus to be able to take the cohort from what was 10 in the year prior to 21. And we had a Southwest Kansas specific cohort. There was a gentleman, Philip Parrish, who runs S&P Catering, and he wanted to keep slinging barbecue out of his food truck during the weekdays. But he wanted to do less of that and more corporate catering, and just wasn't really sure how to get there and how to start. And so through his coaching sessions, he identified new pricing strategies for corporates, identified a list of corporates that he could call on to test and just see if it was going to be a fit. And the goal wasn't to book catering jobs, but coming out of that week of experimenting, 3 of the 5 corporates and potential corporate partners that he called ended up booking. One of them was, I think it was the school prom. So that's meaningful, and that's huge for a small business like Phillips. We take all types of entrepreneurs through this program. It's industry agnostic. So we've had anything from S&P Catering to a gal who's developing a tech app that helps with buy now, pay later loans, to a gentleman who's in shipping and logistics. The key that they all have in common is that they want to grow and scale their business. They want the business to be different tomorrow than it is today. And they want to learn and be in community and cohort with other entrepreneurs. We just about 2 weeks ago kicked off our 3rd year of the customer traction cohort. And we have 20 entrepreneurs going through this year. So in total, by the time that this cohort will be done, we will have graduated over 50 entrepreneurs. We've got, we're pretty proud of the diversity of the groups that we have. Of course, there's always effort to do more and provide more to everyone. We're also pretty proud of the way that the cohorts have spanned across the state of Kansas, with individuals who are being served in underserved or rural or urban distressed areas throughout the state as well. So it's not just Wichita entrepreneurs that we serve. Here's a look at the individuals that are in the cohort this year. Great group of people. And again, thanks to our partners at Network Kansas, EDA, the city and county in Wichita have come together to support this as well. The 4th of 4 programs underneath the Next Stage umbrella is the Enterprise Engagement Series. So there are a lot of early stage Kansas businesses out there who want to grow by doing business with medium or large size enterprise organizations. And there's a lot of enterprise organizations that want to be innovative and want to work with early stage companies. They just don't necessarily know how or know who. And so what this program aims to do is bridge the knowledge and communication gaps between early stage Kansas businesses and then enterprises as well. And so what we do, it's a lot of fun. We bring in I think it was 11 or 12 enterprise partners last year. We bring them in every single week for 90 minutes. We rotate the enterprise partners, and the cohort sits in front of the room and they get to ask any question under the sun that's going to allow them to better understand how they might be able to work with these enterprise companies. In terms of who should apply, it's businesses throughout the state of Kansas who want to grow and scale by doing business or by partnering with medium and large size enterprises. So a couple of examples of enterprises that we have on board are things like as large as Cargill and Evergy. Spirit Aerosystems was a part of it, but also there were companies like PEC and Star Lumber, an engineering firm that has about 400 individuals, and then a lumber firm that started out actually in their chicken coop way back when. I think it was the 40s or so that Star Lumber began, and they've experienced some massive growth throughout the region. So those businesses get together and they share all of their knowledge about how these early stage companies could go about working with them. This individual in the picture is Jesse with Nudge Compost. He graduated last year, and he wants to help businesses and partner with businesses who have more of an eye on being green and provide composting bins, much like a shredding bin. He wants to provide composting bins at the corporate level. And so he was able to make some really good connections through the program. Again, it's industry agnostic, the types of businesses who can come through the Enterprise Engagement Series. It's just a matter of, do they want to grow and do they want to possibly sell to enterprises? Another really cool thing about the Enterprise Engagement Series that is not necessarily a benefit that we thought we would see going into it, but that we've seen coming out, is the entrepreneurs are speeding up their their access to potential prospective customers, yes, but they're also learning really quick what businesses or enterprises they don't necessarily want to spend their time working with. And that's not a bad thing, because we're reducing that spin and churn and that precious time that all startups have. Impact to date, this program has run 2 years in a row. We were able to expand the breadth of the program to serve throughout Kansas a little bit better, and in rural Kansas a little bit better, specifically with the help of Network Kansas this year. We've graduated 40 cohort members in the first 2 years, and we expect to take another 20 through this coming fall as well. So with that, I would love to open up the room for any questions that you all might have. I'm happy to answer them. And otherwise, you can scan this QR code to take a look at our annual report if you want to take an even deeper dive on all things Nexus. Thank you.
There are some good questions. That was wonderful. And I feel like there's things I want to refer to you to check out and so forth. So I think there's a lot of energy around questions. So Amanda wants to know, the Nexus suite of services are focused on for-profit companies, not nonprofit, correct?
Generally speaking, yes. But there's always an exception to every rule, and especially as it relates to the community health and vibrancy pilot competition. We've seen social enterprises, and I believe we've seen nonprofits applying for that as well. I would say if there's a specific example or situation that you want to chat more in depth about, I am happy to set up a call and talk through it.
And Rhonda wants to know, how does this agency work with rural towns of less than 5,000?
I think the short and sweet answer to that is, when I'm working with individuals across rural Kansas to think about what programs might be a fit for them, I don't necessarily look at how large or small that rural part of Kansas is. We will serve anyone who has that mindset of wanting to grow and get better and learn. And so the great thing about the programs that we run is that the tools and the systems that they provide and that way of thinking that they provide, it's helpful for anyone across the state. At least so far it has been.
So a follow-up question is there a cost to your services?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I failed to mention that there is not. Thanks to our partners and the EDA grant, we are able to provide those programs for free. They do not take equity in the entrepreneur's business. The biggest investment is their time. And so we're really clear about that up front in terms of the time that it takes for the entrepreneurs. The customer traction cohort is a little bit heftier in terms of the time spent to work on that and those tools and flex experiments each week. But no, there's no hard cost associated.
Okay. Have you served any childcare centers?
That's a great question. At this moment in time, no. And at the same time, we're hopeful that we can in the near future.
And so in a private conversation, I see other network. Are you a Network Kansas program, or do you just work closely with them?
We work really closely alongside the Network Kansas team. So where they are kind of the OGs in the space and have their roots far and wide and so deep into so many Kansas communities, we've got a level of depth in our programming, at least with the customer traction cohort, enterprise engagement series, and community health and vibrancy pilot competition, that they kind of bolt on to one another to run those programs.
Yeah. So one of the participants mentioned that their community was in a private message, said that their rural community was in need of entrepreneurship training. And I asked her if they had an e-community, and she was not aware whether they did. Is there a Network Kansas person on that can help us know whether that will be an option?
Absolutely. Sure. I can send a link of our recent map and some things. So yeah.
Great. Thanks, Sierra. Thanks.
And I will say that the e-communities and e-community coaches, when it comes time to, with Network Kansas, when it comes time to opening up applications for the customer traction cohort and enterprise engagement series, they are our right-hand team members and knowing exactly who it is that needs this level of support or who it is that would benefit from this level of support. So thanks to the Network Kansas team.
Yeah. So are the various training, are they all in person or are some of them online?
Nope. So the bulk of the customer traction cohort is online. All of the weekly one-on-one coaching sessions are virtual. There are the opportunities to come in person bi-weekly to the cohort-wide workshops. And then with the enterprise engagement series, those workshops are weekly for about 8 weeks. And we offer a hybrid solution as well. We've been, for those of you who are in the Wichita area, if anyone is, we've been really fortunate to work alongside Evergy Connect, and they've got incredible technology when you're trying to do something that's a hybrid style. So we're not perfect, but getting better at our ability to offer everything hybrid.
We've had some excellent questions and thank you for your engagement. Does anybody have any other questions? You're welcome to unmute and ask them in person. Sarah's given us the e-community region map. Another thing I know before we started, Amber made a connection with a resource that she didn't know about, Teresa in Northeast Kansas. If any of you would like Amber to know more about what you're doing in your region, please put your name and your email address in the chat for Amber, and maybe reach out to her or just take it the bull by the horns and reach out to Amber directly and let her know about what you're doing in your area. There's a question that says, how about computer lab? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Norma. Can you say more?
Maybe what she means is for entrepreneurs that do not have technology access.
I see, okay.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And we were able to, last year for one of the cohort members in the Southwest Kansas group on the CTC program, we're able to connect her with one of the local libraries to get the right tech in her hands. We also understand that sometimes internet access is not as great throughout the state as it is in urban areas. And so there's always the option to have a phone call instead of a Zoom. There's always the option to take a photo of the homework and text it in versus be in the portal. And so we try to offer as many workarounds as possible. And we will always be able to get tech in the right hands if that person is in the cohort. So there was another example of lending a laptop for the series as well. So we aim to not have to have that be a problem or a barrier.
Norma teaches computer classes.
Gotcha.
Okay, Sammy wants to know, have you worked with farmers and ranchers? Do you have any success stories about those?
So our angel investment group, there are a couple of ag-related clients in that portfolio. One is Clint Bauer, who runs Greenfield Robotics, and he is taking that world by storm in terms of being able to weed out to eliminate weeds from land without the use of chemicals and with the use of his robots. And one of the success stories there is Chipotle actually just invested in him to be able to run and scale his business a little further. As far as going through the customer traction cohort and the enterprise engagement series, I'm trying to think. we had a beef supplier that had an e-commerce site that extended across, sales were across the United States. And I'm trying to think of any others. That's probably the closest one. But what I will say is that the system and the tools, it's really a beautiful thing. It's industry agnostic. And so that framework of flex experiments really works, whether you are a Main Street boutique in rural Kansas, or you're a tech-enabled company, or a rancher. It really works just about for anyone.
Beautiful. Anybody have anything else they'd like to ask? While you're thinking, we have a few announcements, and if you have, while we're still on, you're welcome to interrupt and ask your question. But I will tell you that this Tuesday is session 4 of 6. We had planned to meet in December, but our speaker lost her voice. So we are meeting in January with the Trail Talk Tuesdays. This month, our meeting is Tuesday, January 9th from noon to 1 p.m. And the topic is, where will we find the money? The registration link will soon be in the chat. Multitasking.
Nancy, can I jump in about Remote Work Wednesdays?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, everyone. I'm Deborah Cole, Program Leader Coordinator for our Community Vitality Team. And Ron Wilson and I have been working together on a project to skill up and lift up some of our remote work employees across the state and encourage companies to create remote positions if they're able to do that, in an effort to extend job opportunities and economic growth to some of our rural areas in particular. And our next Remote Work Wednesday webinar will be next Wednesday, February 7th. And it will be Dr. Amy Hageman coming to talk about tax implications for remote work in Kansas, both for the workers and for the companies. So she's from our College of Business, our accounting lead, and looking forward to hearing her on Wednesday. Please feel free to register, and we'll get you some more information about that. And I see Nancy put the Trail Talk Tuesdays link in as well.
Yep. Thanks, Deborah. And we are continuing to do grant writing basics. Our friends in Southwind District are hosting this week, but it's online, so it doesn't matter where you're from. They're bursting with more than 50 people in that class, so I'm urging you to think about the next session, which is March 25th through 27th. No, it's not 25th and 27th. It's just 2 afternoons, 1:30 to 4:30. And if you have an event you'd like to promote, please send it to me and I'll send it out to the 1,400 people that get our newsletter about the First Friday calls. So are there any other announcements or any more questions for Amber? All right. If you would like to promote these calls in your newsletters, we send out a email with a link to the K-State Facebook page, and it'll look similar to the one that Deborah sent out for remote work. So if you want to get a link to all of these so that you can just post them into your own Facebook page, why, we would appreciate your help in getting this word out. I think to the point of working with communities smaller than 5,000, the real challenge is just getting the information out to them, so you can help with that. Michael has an announcement there. I hope you'll pay attention to that. Michael, do you want to say something about it?
Yes, good morning. Yeah, I can send you the PDF of this program. It's the governor requested some new areas in Kansas that have been historically underutilized for development, and they were accepted by the SBA. Basically, this program is a way for small business in these zone areas to qualify and apply for sole source contracts, mainly government contracts. And so it's a way for businesses in some of these areas to, they already exist, you know, it gives them a leg up in the contracting realm. So I think it'd be worth tuning into. There's a few out west in Ford County and Dodge City and elsewhere. And so that's what we'll be talking about. Craig Van Wy and SBA will be co-hosting that webinar Tuesday at 2 p.m.
Fantastic. Sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Thanks, Michael. And I saw Brendan on the phone, on the line. I don't know whether he's available. Looked like he might have been driving, but Brendan Worth is our presenter next time. And Brendan will tell us about Engaged Kansas, a partnership of organizations with a nonpartisan bias, unbiased resources designed to encourage and support people to consider public service across Kansas. Everything that gets done in small communities is mostly about public service and a positive outlook for the community, rather than just assuming that our rural towns are going to continue to decline. No, so Gary, you asked if you registered for the session. All of our sessions, whether they're First Friday or Trail Talk, the registration is the same every time. If you put it into your calendar, you don't have to re-register. So if you didn't put it in your calendar, go back to the old date that you did have it in your calendar and use that again. So once you're registered, you're always registered for any of our events. However, each is unique. So if you're registered for Trail Talk, you are not registered for First Friday or for Remote Wednesday. So register for an event and you'll always be registered, just put it in your calendar for your convenience. Good question, Gary. Thanks. All right. Brendan says he's looking forward to next month, and we are looking forward to talking with him. I was the personal beneficiary this week of learning what my own home community of Woodbine, Kansas, population 158 is doing. And I am so proud of what they're doing to maintain that community. And it really just is about one person with a positive attitude and a positive intention. So maybe it's just me, but this spoke to me today. My thought for the day is age is not a barrier. It's a well-earned opportunity to do things your way. And with that, I say goodbye, and I hope you'll answer our quiz at the end of the session. We'll all appreciate hearing what you say. Thanks, and have a great Kansas day.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, everyone.